Yo, what's up, boys? It's Betta here with my crit Detonate Dead Blood Mage build that I've been playing, trying out different passive trees, supports, and gear for around about the past 2 weeks to end up with this current version. It's a whole lot of fun to play while easily clearing through maps, and one-tapping rares is super satisfying, not to mention the insane amounts of boss damage that it deals. So far, I have done all of the content on the build in terms of mapping and bossing, as bossing only takes a few seconds. You basically avoid all mechanics, except if you do mess up on the rotation, then you can expect to see a mechanic or two maybe. Before I continue, drop a like, subscribe, share, and pop into my live streams over on Twitch or my community Discord should you have any questions or maybe need any help. I have the entire guide on Maxroll for you to refer to, so you can easily progress without getting stuck, and can be found down below in the description with all other necessary links. In terms of how the build works, offensively, Detonate Dead deals 20% base physical damage equal to the corpse's life, and in this instance we're using 4 skeletal brutes for their massive health pool, and then we boost this massive health pool with minion levels and additional minion life, and then sacrifice is used to count them as corpses, so then Detonate Dead can be used on them. And then additionally we also have a 79% chance to not consume corpses, in this instance to not consume our brutes, so then we can detonate them in quick succession. If they are consumed, then we have got 2 skeletal clerics which will revive them. Do note that this is clunky at times, and you may have to wait for all of your minions to be resummoned. You also need to control your minions to remain in front of you, and only use Detonate Dead on your brutes for maximum damage output and not on your clerics. In terms of damage scaling, your Brute's Life is your main damage source, as Detonate Dead deals 20% base damage of their total life pool. So for instance, if your Brutes have got 50,000 maximum life, then your base damage will be 10,000 physical damage, which is way more than any other skill in the game currently. There is 3 major factors in order to scale our damage to massive amounts. The first is minion levels from our gear and our skill gems. The second is going to be minion life, as I already mentioned, which we gain from the passive tree and some gear. And then the third is critical strike chance and critical damage. You need to prioritize getting your critical strike chance to be at least 65% and your critical damage to be at least 350%. And then focus on more minion levels and minion health to push your brutes maximum life to over 50,000. Defensively, we rely on our capped resistances. We have got a double life pool, which comes from life remnants via our Sanguimancy Ascendancy node. Double energy shield pool as well from Grim Remnants via Grim Feast buff, totaling to around about 11,000 total life and energy shield pool. These both provide sustain from killing enemies, as they will drop little red and white flames that can be collected to keep you topped up. And then life remnants also spawn when critically hitting enemies, and as we are mostly always landing critical hits, these will spawn everywhere. Our best defense comes from our minions acting as meat shields to aggro enemies while we remain back to detonate them, and that way we can allow for all of the on-death effects and that to expire by the time we are progressing, and that way we aren't getting one shot by anything ridiculous. In terms of leveling, I recommend that you use my witch leveling for Blood Mage or Infernalist, in this instance for Blood Mage obviously. I've got a detailed guide on Maxroll, and I also have a YouTube video of it explaining exactly how you can level up until level 66, whereby you will be respecking. So leveling this way is probably the best and the fastest. You can expect to get through the campaign within 10 to 12 hours roughly, and it is super smooth using the skeletal arsonists and that, as their clear is pretty damn decent and the damage is absolutely absurd for getting the act bosses down really quickly. You can find this guide down below in the description. However, should you want to level a different way, you are more than welcome to. I just found that this is probably the best way that you can level, and then respec later on to Detonate Dead once you have finished all of the acts. Once you have cleared through all of the acts and that, and you are around about level 66, then you can do your respec. For your respec, you'll be needing around about 140,000 gold in total. That way you can respec your entire tree. Well, basically your entire tree, basically just picking up a whole bunch of crit nodes and some minion life and that really early on, just so you can get the build started and that. So do use the tree over here, and then you can use the other ones to progress as you level up. Obviously, with the skill gems, they are in order of priority. So the very first setup over here is your mapping setup, and then the second one over here is going to be your bossing setup. I do just want to note that for mapping, Spell Echo and Magnified Effect can be swapped for Heft or Brutality, should you not have a 6-link early on in that. Just to make sure that you are using the area of effect and spell echo instead of maybe heft or even brutality. And then in terms of gearing, you want the Endizen's Charge for the chance to not destroy corpses, giving some additional crit chance and spell damage, a helmet with +1 to all minion skills and some increased critical hit chance if you can, and then an amulet with +1 to all minion skills with a little bit of spirit. But I will get over onto the spirit requirements in a little bit. On the chest as well, a little bit of spirit and resistance with life. And then for your scepter, preferably you want one with the malice skill, which gives additional critical hit chance in that on enemies as it does stack up. And then obviously additional minion levels, along with a little bit of extra spirit. And then of course, minion life is very, very important. And then on your rings, you just want some resistance and cast speed. Cast speed is very, very important in order for you to successfully detonate your brutes and that pretty comfortably. Without cast speed, it does feel really, really slow. So I do recommend getting cast speed as soon as you can. And then on the gloves is just some life and that. The same thing with the belts, life, resistance. And then boots is just some movement speed, life, and resistance once again. One quick thing to note as well is that when you're going through the acts and that, you do not have to do any of your labs and that, because I recommend that once you have finished all of the acts, that you should rather get a boost. These are around about 30 to 40 exalts, I believe. And if you go ahead and grab a boost underneath trade or even on TFT as well, then that way you can get all 4 of your labs and that without having to actually do it yourself. You save a lot of time, and then that way you can respec really, really quickly and get the build up and going as soon as possible. All right, in terms of your spirit requirements and that, I do recommend that you do get spirits on a chest, a amulet, and on your scepter. You can mix and match wherever you want, maybe getting some additional spirit on the scepter. That way you don't have to get on the amulet or the chest or so forth. In total, you will be needing 331 spirit. This way you can run 4 brutes and 2 skeletal clerics. However, do not worry if you do not have enough spirit, and the reason why is because you can still run only 3 brutes and then 1 cleric, which is perfectly fine, or you can run 4 brutes and 1 cleric, which is also perfectly fine. As long as you've got at least 1 cleric and at least 3 brutes up, and that the build will still perform really, really smooth. However, getting to 4 brutes and 2 clerics is the ideal setup for me, because that way it feels as if it is more consistent, and then that way there is less downtime whereby your minions die and then you end up running around for like 6 or 7 seconds doing basically nothing because you can't even detonate them. So yeah, early on, just make sure that you're getting 331 total spirit from your chest, amulet, and your scepter. And then later on in the end game, where my current character is in that, I have replaced the amulet and the chest out for not having a spirit, and I've gotten all of that additional spirit on the scepter. These scepters can be super expensive, and I will get into this in a bit. Alright, jumping on in game now. So for your Ascendancy, the very first node is Sanguimancy, whereby it grants the skill Life Remnants, and you've got a 25% chance to spawn a remnant on killing an enemy. And you also have the additional chance of spawning them when you are critically hitting enemies and that. And basically what this allows is for your life to overflow its maximum amount. So in this instance, I've got 2,000 maximum life over here, and this will allow it to overflow to 4,000. And then for the second node is just grasping wounds. This makes it so that 25% of life loss from hits is prevented, and then that much is lost over 4 seconds. So this is basically just a delay in damage being taken, and that this does help out a little bit and here and there, but it's mostly not really that necessary. If you really do want to, you can grab blood barbs for the additional damage as extra physical damage, and then elemental damage also contributes to bleeding magnitude. This is specifically really good paired with Mana Tempest, as it makes it so that 70% of your damage is as extra lightning damage, but it does not really make that much of a difference, so that's why I settled for Grasping Wounds. And then Gore Spark over here is absolutely useless at the moment because it does not work at all. We do not gain the additional critical damage bonus per 40 life, and mainly this is only taken so we can get to Sunder the Flesh. And now Sunder the Flesh is super useful, as the base critical hit chance for spells is 15%, and this is multiplied by 2, so we are gaining around about 33% critical hit chance in total just from this singular node, and this is what allows us to push our critical hit chance to well over 66%. As you can see at the moment, I'm on 68% and around about 390 crit damage bonus. When the Gore Spark is fixed, I will be doing an update on the build to get a lot more life in that. That way we can scale a lot more critical damage bonus, maybe even seeing around about 600%, I expect, should we be able to get that much extra life. For the passive skill tree, we are just grabbing a whole bunch of additional minion life and a whole bunch of additional crit chance nodes and that all over the place pretty much, and some additional physical damage and that, and a little bit of quality of life with the additional maximum energy shield nodes, and then of course a little bit of extra area of effect for our Detonate Dead. That way it just improves our clear by a little amount. And then meat recycling is also used, so we have a chance to not destroy our corpses. This is what gives our total 79% chance for them to not be consumed. And then on top of this is just additional physical damage over here. And then Cut to the Bone enables us to break armor much quicker. That way we can burst down bosses way faster than we normally can. And as a bonus, we can also inflict bleeding. And our bleeding is pretty damn potent, especially considering we've got such a high base damage. I did not scale further into bleeding in that, as I really did not feel it's necessary. If you really want to, you can grab the additional bleed chance nodes and go ahead and grab blood tearing as well, and shredding force. You can probably ditch some nodes here and there, and probably over here careful assassin and that, but it's really not necessary. And then for minion defense, I just picked up Living Death, and along with that, I also have Val Mending. This is so that your minions don't get instantly one-shotted, and they do have some form of survivability, so that way they do remain up more consistently. If you do want to drop these nodes, you can, but I really do not recommend doing so. And then for your jewels, I would recommend getting increased critical damage bonus with some cast speed and increased damage if you've consumed a corpse recently. You can also get increased effective curses and that too. The main ones that you should focus on getting is the increased critical damage bonus and the cast speed, as this is the best. And then on at least one of your jewels, you need to have minions have got 10 to all elemental resistances. That way your brutes are resistance capped at least, so you don't have to actually worry about them dying and that. Obviously they aren't chaos res capped and that, but you don't have to really worry about that because they've got such a large life pool, they don't really die all too easily. And then for the last jewel, I would recommend getting a ruby for minion increased maximum life and global physical damage. That's just a quality of life. If you really want to, you can get all of your jewels like this with one of the minion or res jewels. It's entirely up to you what you are comfortable with. Alright, moving on to skill gems, probably the most important thing, right? So, obviously we're using the skeletal brutes with physical mastery and minion mastery for the additional levels. That way we're able to scale it up to level 29 along with our other additional minion levels and that. You can easily get to level 31 And then obviously I'm using Meat Shield for the more maximum life to further scale their maximum life. And then Elemental Army, once again, just to boost their overall resistance and their survivability. And then for our Detonate Dead, we are using Corpse Conservation, so they've got a 25% chance to not be destroyed. This adds on to that total amount of 79% chance. And then Brutality for the more physical damage, and Heft for the more maximum physical damage, further scaling the total physical damage. And then Spell Echo, this allows it so the skill is echoed twice. That way we are gaining 2 pops instead of 1. This does help out on the clear a lot. And then of course magnified effect for the more area of effect too. When it comes to bossing, I highly recommend swapping out Brutality because we are going to be using the Mana Tempest as extra damage. We really want to be able to deal the elemental damage. So you're going to be swapping that out along with your Spell Echo and your Magnified Effect. And then you're going to be putting in Considered Casting for more damage with spell hits. And then Minion Pact for the 40% more damage. And then Concentrated Effect once again for an additional 40% more damage. This allows you to burst down bosses really, really quickly, and you should not ever see any mechanics in terms of bossing. And then next up is Soul Offering. This gives us 46% more spell damage, and as Detonate Dead is a spell, this does apply. And then we are using Ablation for the increased effect of the offerings, and supported skills deal 30% more damage on top of that. And then Font of Rage just for additional rage generation, which adds up to about 12 rage, which is around about 12% more damage. And then Persistence for the more skill effect duration. And then for your clerics, it's just increased cooldown recovery rate. That way they are able to revive your brutes way faster. And then Arcane Tempo, so they cast quicker. And then Last Gasp is used so that when they do die, they will still last an additional 4 seconds, just to keep your uptime on your minions more consistent. However, it can be clunky. Sometimes it does fail, so you will have to wait for them to respawn. And then Mana Tempest empowers spells to gain 78% of damage as lightning damage. This enables us to significantly increase our total damage output on bossing. And then with this, you should use Inspiration for the less cost, as it costs life and mana each second while you remain inside of the storm. And this can get pretty hectic after around about a few seconds of casting Detonate Dead. And then along with that, we also have Premeditation. So then our empowered skill in this instance is Detonate Dead, will deal 15% more damage. And then just Lightning Mastery for the additional level, so it's level 20. And then I am using Vulnerability, so hits against cursed enemies will ignore up to 8,000 armor. And then along with this, I'm using the increased effect of supported curses and mobility. This is just a quality of life thing. You can put anything else that you want in here, really. And then Grim Feast is whereby we get our remnants from. And with this, I'm using increased mana regeneration rate and cannibalism. You really don't need these. If you are short on spirit and that, you can end up socketing these out, as they are not really that necessary. And then lastly, obviously, is Sacrifice, which allows us to use Detonate Dead on our minions. Obviously, minions do revive more slowly in that, but it's not so much of an issue, as we do have the clerics to revive the brutes. Unless you do end up popping your clerics, then you can expect to wait some time. All right, moving on to gearing real quick. So we are using the Endizen's Charge for the increased critical hit chance for spells and the additional spell damage. You should try and get as high as possible rolls on this, and then maybe pick up a corrupted one, so you can have a 29% chance for corpses to not be destroyed when consuming the corpses. For your helmet, you really just want high energy shield and the +1 or +2 to all minion skills, and then the increased critical hit chance. For your amulet, you should get one that's got some attributes in that, just for filling out attribute requirements. And then along with this, the most important thing is to get the +3 to level of all minion skills. And then quality of life is maybe some spell damage, increased maximum energy shield, and so forth. And then you need to anoint acceleration for 3% increased movement speed and increased skill speed, which is well paired with our cast speed from our rings. And then obviously on the rings, you just need maybe some laugh, and as much resistances as possible just to cap out your resistances. And then in terms of the scepter, as I did mention earlier on in the video, that you will start off having spirit on the chest and the amulet, but as you get later on down into the end game, you'll end up switching to just having spirit on the scepter. So you need to have at least 331 spirits, I believe, in total to have 4 brutes and your clerics and to have the entire setup. However, if you cannot get a scepter with such high spirits, because they can be pretty damn expensive, then you can, of course, drop out your clarity and your cannibalism, lowering your total spirit cost by just an extra amount. And if that's still not enough for you, then of course you can maybe get a little bit of spirits on your chest. And in terms of the chest, you just want high energy shield with some intelligence and some resistance with maybe some laugh as well, just to bring up your laugh pool. And then the same thing for the boots is just laugh, resistance alongside with some movement speed. And then for the gloves, the most important thing is to get the critical damage bonus with some resistance and laugh once again. And then lastly, for the belt, you need to get a belt with the +2 to charm slots. This is very, very important with a little bit of resistance and maybe laugh if you can. These do tend to be pretty damn expensive as well, so do just note that. Now, the reason why you want to get a belt with +2 charm slots is so that you can get a thawing charm, so you are immune to freeze, a stone charm, so you cannot be stunned when you are stunned, and then obviously a silver charm over here, so you're unaffected by slows. These provide massive quality of life, especially when you're doing breach contents and that, whereby you end up getting stunned, frozen, and slowed pretty often. And then on the scepter, the most important thing, apart from the spirit, is the +4 to level of all minion skills. You can also get a +5, and then minions have increased maximum life is also very, very important to get on it. Alright, lastly, moving over to the playstyle of the build and how it is to be played now that you know all of the necessary information about the build. So first and foremost, I would recommend opening up your options, going to input, and then just scrolling down until you see direct minions. Over here, I would recommend changing this to your shift key, because you need to direct your minions in front of you non-stop. That way you can pop them on top of the enemies, and it's a lot easier rather than relying on them just running to the enemies mindlessly. However, do just note that you can change this to any key that you are comfortable with. I just use shift because using my pinky on shift is very, very comfortable to just keep it down the entire time while I'm playing, and then that way I can just focus on exploding the brutes specifically. So during mapping and that, obviously you want to remain in the back and let your minions go on into the fray or battle, and make sure that you're using your Detonate dead only on your brutes for the maximum damage output. And now one thing to note is that during breaches and like expedition and also rituals and that, you can't always end up targeting your brutes, so you can just spam away at Detonate dead. You don't really have to worry about the damage loss, as because there are so many corpses, and especially like rares and that appear, and now and then you will detonate one of your brutes or maybe even 2 of them, and that you don't have to worry about the damage inconsistency, as it will still be really, really smooth to get through. Alright, and now in terms of bossing playstyle, this is going to be very, very important to get your rotation correct on bosses, otherwise they will not be killed super, super quickly and you will become frustrated in that. However, the rotation is super simple, and the number one thing that you need to remember during bosses is to not panic and to just stay relaxed. That way you can get through the rotation really, really easily. So first and foremost, obviously, let's just say that the map device is the boss and he is now spawned. So you are going to use vulnerability first, and then you are going to use your soul offering on one of your clerics specifically, and not your brutes. And then you're going to tap your mana and life potion, and then you are going to use your Mana Tempest. Now, one thing to note is you have to stay in your Mana Tempest in order to gain the full benefits of it. You do not want to direct your minions like you do while mapping and that. You want them to just do their own thing and go towards the boss. And then you need to strictly focus on only detonating your brutes and not your clerics. because especially in a boss fight, if you're detonating your clerics, your damage fall off is pretty hectic. I would recommend that you do practice this rotation in your hideout and that, so you are very familiar with it. That way, when you do get to a boss and that, you are way more comfortable with how the rotation works. And then obviously every single 6 seconds or so, you will have to recast your soul offering and your vulnerability. Alright, and that is it for this guide, Exiles. I hope you enjoyed it, and should you have, please do drop a like on the video, consider subscribing as well, and remember, if you do need any help or maybe have any questions, please do pop into my community Discord or even my live stream over on Twitch. I'm live daily. Other than that, Exiles, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video or live stream.